The term GOAT is often used too lightly. In the case of Tiger Woods, it's hard to find an athlete who's had a more dominant period than Tiger did in his prime years. The things he achieved in such a short amount of time when he burst onto the scene took his career to heights never seen in the game of golf. That's when things started to go wrong. External struggles began to take their toll, and then Tiger Woods, the greatest golfer and one of the most recognizable athletes on the planet, was arrested on a DUI charge. How did someone who had the world at his feet end up with his mugshot published in every news outlet? How did someone who had risen so high fall so quickly? In 1997, as Nick Faldo put Tiger Woods' first green jacket on his shoulders, it was already clear to the golfing world that he would go on to do amazing things. He was the most hyped amateur player in history and had won 3 consecutive U.S. amateur championships before he turned pro, the first player ever to do so. He'd already finished the Masters in 41st place as an amateur and broke almost every record in the amateur game. He was a Rookie of the Year in his first season on the PGA Tour and then won his first green jacket in his second year as a professional. Tiger was seen as the next big thing in golf, but nobody could have predicted just how dominant he would become. In 2001, he won all 4 major championships to become the only player in history to hold all 4 at the same time. He went on to win 71 tour events and was world number 1 for 281 weeks during one of the most dominant periods atop the sport we've ever seen. It wasn't just the dominance. Tiger made golf entertaining. He was charismatic, he was fiery, and he was a role model for people like him, belonging to a minority, particularly in the world of golf. Tiger was the face of a sport. Endorsements, video games using his name, and a level of fame most athletes never get to experience came calling. And Tiger seemed to take it all in his stride. So, how did Tiger Woods end up arrested in the early morning of May 29, 2017, under suspicion of driving under the influence, after being found asleep at the wheel of his vehicle? To answer that question, we have to look back 10 years earlier to November 2009. Until that day in 2009, Tiger was the good guy, and despite his dominance, the media rarely went against him. However, that all changed when news broke that Tiger had been involved in a minor car accident. Reports emerged that he had crashed his SUV into a tree and a fire hydrant outside his Windermere, Florida home. At first, it was unknown what had caused the accident, but as time passed, more information began to surface. Tiger's personal life had been unraveling behind the scenes. It turned out there were issues at home. He had been conducting affairs and was being divorced by his wife, Elin Nordegren. Some of his big sponsorship endorsements fell apart over a short space of time. Once a darling of the sporting world, the wider African-American community, and the wider media, Tiger's public image had suffered serious damage. He retreated from the public eye, spending 45 days in a clinic to get help, and he didn't return to golf until the 2010 Masters. That began a steady fall from grace that continued over the next 7 years. It turned out that some of Tiger's problems had stemmed from the toll his golf game was taking on his body. Over the next few years, Tiger would have 4 surgeries on his back, including having his lower back fused in 2017. Throughout that time, he would continue trying to return and compete in the sport he loved, the only thing he'd ever known. But each time he tried to come back, his body would fail him again, or his game would not be in the place it needed to be. Where once the sporting world celebrated his feats of glory, they now watched in sadness as he struggled to even walk the course. Then, on May 29th, things got even worse, and Woods finally hit rock bottom. The incident occurred in Tiger's hometown, Jupiter, Florida. Tiger was taken into custody at 2:49 a.m. and subsequently released at 10:50 a.m. on the same day, having spent the intervening time in a cell. Dashcam footage of his arrest was later released to the public. It showed Tiger in a disoriented state inside his vehicle. He appeared confused and had difficulty following the instructions given to him by police officers. The footage also captured Woods struggling with a field sobriety test, which he ultimately failed. Even from watching the video, it was easy to tell that Woods' speech was slurred and that he was unsteady on his feet when he got out of the car. He could be heard speaking to the officers, trying to explain that he was taking prescribed medications that had mixed and caused his inebriated state. However, his overall condition led the officers to believe he was under the influence of alcohol or another recreational drug. This gave the police no choice but to arrest Tiger and bring him in pending bail. Woods would later plead guilty to reckless driving and was sentenced to 1 year of probation, a $250 fine, and 50 hours of community service. He had no alcohol in his system at the time of his arrest, but should not have got behind the wheel of a vehicle while taking pain medication that could cause him to lose his senses. This did add up. It was only a month out from his fourth back surgery in almost as many years, and would have been on several types of painkillers to keep him going. The fact he was able to drive was shocking. Still, for someone whose stock took that huge hit in 2009 and had been on a steady decline since through his struggles with injury, this was truly as bad as it would get for Tiger Woods. He again found himself away from the game he loved, but he never gave up, and this story does have a brighter ending. Tiger would make his long-awaited comeback to professional golf in 2018. Unlike his past attempts at returning to the top of the game, which all failed, this time he looked healthy, he looked fit, and he looked hungry. He would end the PGA Tour season by winning the final event, the Tour Championship, after competing at major tournaments all year without getting over the line. This was his first win in 5 years, and his longest run of form in much longer. Then in 2019, a resurgent Woods would do something many thought impossible. After all the hardships, all of the surgeries, and the pain that came along with it, Tiger came alive at the Masters and put on the green jacket for the 5th time. Tiger was back, and the whole world took notice. This was a man conquering his demons and coming full circle, and is one of sport's greatest comeback stories of all time. Tiger Woods transcended golf, and not for the first time, and his son, a talented golfer himself even at a young age, was watching. The comeback was complete. This time there was no period of dominance in the game, just a passion to play as much as possible. A further motor accident in 2021 effectively ended any hope that he would be able to repeat his feat due to severe damage to his right leg and ankle. But there was something different this time. It felt like he'd finally accomplished what he wanted to, and now playing is for the sport and the enjoyment rather than the potential to win major championships. Tiger's story is one of redemption. Despite the misfortune he experienced with his body and the external factors that caused his fall from grace, he showed the grit and determination needed to overcome those issues and return to the winner's circle a decade later. Tiger Woods is flawed, but through talent and strength of mind, he is also a genius.